Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Incompetent Nerds. I'm your host, Tank, along with, our lovely co-host, Mark.
Yo.
I was about to say hi to the people, Mark. And special guest, good friend of mine's, work buddies, and the only mother flower I know that could freaking publish a book. Please welcome none other than Antonio D's Nuts Sommerio. How's it going, bro?
Unbelievable. I expect that from you. No. Only you.
Of course. I gotta, I gotta do that.
So I guess you know how this interview's about to go.
Yeah, he is still 16. Don't forget that.
More like 14. 14 with an Xbox Live account.
Right.
Oh man. So let's get into it, Tony. All right, let's go straight into it. How do we know each other?
Oh, well, for, I guess, about 3 years we worked together. I'm not going to say the company's name for, I guess, legal purposes, but very good head on your shoulders. I was really interested when you told me about, your podcast, whatever. I gave you a copy of Borrowed Time. You read it. You actually gave some commentary, which actually ended up on the back of the book. So you were one of the few people that were able to do that in the beginning for me. So you actually had the ability to read a review copy. So, that feedback was really awesome. It was really important to me, to know that even, people in your family members, people in your family had read the book. I thought that was pretty awesome. But yeah, we've been knowing each other for about like 4 or 5 years now. I think it's getting there. It's getting to that mark. We don't work
close to 5.
Yeah.
So what did you I guess was there a moment or a time where George went from or Tank as he's formerly known, he went to coworker to be like, oh, this guy's a cool friend, this guy's a cool guy? Because I always like bringing it up because he's one of my best friends, so I always like asking people that.
As in when he was like, hey, he's a coworker or he's a buddy.
You go from coworker to buddy for you.
Oh no, well that didn't take long. We share a lot of the similar interests or whatever. We both game. As a matter of fact, I believe he and another guy was responsible for talking me into Overwatch, and now they haven't touched Overwatch, and I'm this huge Overwatch fan, and they are completely responsible for my Overwatch addiction. They left it alone years ago. I think it was him and Silvertooth. Yeah, it was another Tony actually, and they're like, "Oh, did you play the beta?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not playing that crap." Then I got into it, and then it was and ever since then I've been hooked. Now my kids play the game, and it's ridiculous. As a matter of fact, before the interview, I was actually logged in, and he messages me. He was like, the interview is happening, right? I'm like, oh, this is important.
Oh yeah, when I text you, I was literally thinking, I'm like, I should just jump on my PlayStation app and see if this motherfucker's online. Something tells me he's probably on Overwatch right now.
It's the anniversary event, bro.
Oh, hold on. Let's go back. How many times have you traded and bought Overwatch? Let's share that story.
I think with my frustrations with character mismatch, I think we're about 7 different times I've owned Overwatch. And now I just got a digital copy of it, so I can't trade it in anymore. But yeah, I've owned 7 copies of Overwatch.
Jeez.
I'll never forget when I was into Overwatch in the beginning, and I would play. He jumped in. We'll play after a while. He actually got off before I got off the game. So I was talking to him about they actually did an update. They traded. He's like, I'm done with that game. I was like, all right, cool. I hate it. I can't. It's a fucking annoying. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever.
Right.
Next, he comes to work with a Diva T-shirt on and a Diva hat, and I'm like, yo, what's up?
Hey, that was a gift. That was a gift.
He's like, oh, my wife. He goes, oh, my wife and kids got this.
That you went out of your way to ask for to your entire friends and family.
Totally. They know the deal.
So he tells me he buys the game again. I was like, oh, okay, wow. I wouldn't even do that. Weeks later, he trades it in. because he was fed up with it. Then he buys and he goes back to training another game, and he's like, man, I don't know. He's talking to his buddy who worked at GameStop. He's like, I don't know what game to get. And his buddy at GameStop goes, I know what game you want. Turns around, grabs Overwatch. He's like, you want this one? And Tony's like, fuck it, I'll take it. So every time I tell him, hey, did you trade it in yet, or what's up? Did you rebuy it?
Yeah.
The cycle of Reebok games.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's how it was like for in high school. Tank and I had a friend who's been on the cast who made us buy SOCOM Confrontation after it was like basically already dead and buried like 3 different times.
Yeah.
No.
But I think I bought a brand new copy from Best Buy for $7.99.
Shit, I bought a used copy for like $5.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't heard the name SOCOM in quite some time. That takes me back. It takes me way back, actually. I played the original SOCOM.
So have
There you go.
Yeah, I remember calling off work to play that game. That was the first game you could voice chat in. Yeah, it was actually crazy. Well, I guess all of your fan base knows that I'm a gamer, so I guess they kind of can say, okay, all right, he's a cool guy. He's not just a nerd writing books. So,
nope.
Yeah,
you know,
cool.
Mr.
I mean, everybody's
I'm actually kind of in the right place.
Mr. Sommerio, you know, he's a gamer, he's an author, he's a techie, he's an engineer, and the fucker was a cop. Oh my god,
so cool.
dude!
No, we're not gonna get on law enforcement stories. No,
we're not gonna get on law enforcement stories. But hey, I used to piss him off because we were doing a move at move restack at my job, so we all have walkie talkies, and we're all messing with Tony. Like, hey, can you give us some whatever the call signs, the encodes, whatever.
Right.
So we're like, okay, cool. So we're doing it, we're laughing. And I swear, I started pissing off Tony because as he's walking past me, I go on the walkie-talkie with everybody. Though, like, who was involved? Like about 15 people with walkie-talkies. So every time Tony walks past me, I go, boop, boop. That's the sound of police. Boop, boop. That's the sound of the beast. And he turns around. He's looking for me. And I hear him on the other end goes, George, I swear to God, you better stop.
So after a while, I just started speaking in all 10 codes, and nobody knew what I was talking about. Like, nobody knew what I was talking about.
Dude, you know, me and Vinny were on the phones, like, looking up these damn codes. Like, what the hell is he saying?
Take someone, like, getting the book, like, being like, I gotta decode this quick.
Yeah, and it's different depending on, like, what department you work for or, like, what state you work for. Like, some of them mean different things. So, you know, they're not, like, universal. Sure. Some of them are universal, you know, like,
right.
You know, the ones that are universal. 1020 means your location, you know, 10-4, you know, is an acknowledgement. Right. And 9 is a repeat transmission, you know, things like that. Those are universal, but some of the other codes, like fire codes, like a hostage situation, those change, and, you know, they're different depending on the actual police force or the jurisdiction or the state that you're in, things of that nature.
Well, you definitely have enough stories to write a book. Jeez, that's like
this man doesn't even need to write fiction. He could just write. He could just go ahead and write nonfiction about his life. He could do whatever. He could even make whatever stories. And when he would tell me, and, you know, this is not to make Tony, you know, shine out there, but when he would tell me all types of stories that he had, be it, you know, when he was younger and past jobs and things like that, like, a lot of them were funny. Like, some jobs he would tell me, like, man, why isn't that a movie? Because it's like, that sounds like some kid who's done with this job, who's an asshole, and it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna piss everybody off, like that tournament at your old job.
Oh yeah, I definitely have what I call origin stories, so to speak. But sure. You know, it's weird that you mentioned that, because a lot of people were expecting that from me. They're like, you know, you have to write about your life. You have to write about these things. And, you know, I had this premise. I'm like, nobody wants to know who you are until they know who you are.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is, like, when you don't have a name for yourself, nobody cares about your autobiography. Nobody cares about you writing about your experiences. Your friends
Right.
and family may think it's hilarious. They may share it with a few people, but until you make a name for yourself and until you're interesting, nobody really cares about reading that. So, that's
Right.
why I tell people that can't be my first piece of work. It's like I really want
Like, if you're writing an autobiography, like, before you're 50, you basically better have, like,
yeah. If it's before you're 50, you better be an interesting person, or some type of
exactly.
public figure, or a celeb, you know, so to speak.
Otherwise,
But
I do not give a shit.
yeah, yeah, and that's the basis of it. What's crazy about Borrowed Time is Borrowed Time actually was completed in 2009.
Oh,
So
wow.
the book was actually finished in its entirety in 2009, and I didn't know how to publish it, and I'm going to
Yeah.
be honest with you, I was totally freaked out by this whole thing. I had these characters that I fell in love with, I had the story that I fell in love with, and I was afraid. I was afraid of it being judged. I was afraid of it being ridiculed. And then, like I was really afraid to go through the traditional publishing route. So, I had read all these books. I had this How to Publish a Book for Dummies. It was the most ridiculous thing in the world. I used to read these dummies books, right? And
Yeah.
it said, ready to submit, to New York and all these different places, and you will be rejected 20 to 30 times. I'm like, I can't handle being rejected from my girlfriend. Fuck that. This shit. So, needless to say, I kind of set on it. It was like, when I was looking back then, like, for me to self-publishing was expensive. It was unheard of. It was like only a small portion of, writers could self-publish because it took money. It took marketing. It took things of that nature. YouTube didn't exist. Facebook didn't exist. All of these different platforms that you would use to, I guess, market your book, nevertheless, get it published and get it edited and things of that nature. So it was extremely intimidating. And so, one day, I was working. I was like, the story kept bothering me. And what I mean by bothering me is it kept coming back. And so it's kind of funny that what was happening is that characters from my book were popping up in very odd places. So at the job where I and George work, there's a Pinkerton at our job. And it was so weird because I'm like, hey, that guy is the guy named from my book, right? And so we used to work with a guy whose last name was Kendall. And I'm like, oh, that's crazy. There's a Dr. Kendall in my book. And so I'm like, what is going on here, man? It was like, I was starting to get these hints, and it was tapping me on my shoulder that it was time. And so the worst thing that could have ever happened, and this is every man's worst fear, my daughter's a teenager, and she's in this play, and she wants me to meet this boy she likes. I'm like, now I got to kill someone. I totally
gotta get the gun out.
And so she goes, Dad, I want you to meet Jacob. And God damn it, that's my lead character's name. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I was like, it was like, first I wanted to just strangle him, but on the same point, it was like something was telling me, like, this was all within like a couple weeks, period. It was like, it's time to do this,
Right.
So I looked at finances, I looked at the different avenues, and I went back to the board. I revised the story to update the story for, 2018. I spent a lot of time going back and revised it. I beat on it, I poked, I prodded it, and it is what you read today. It is in its entirety.
Mm-hmm. And I guess through that process of like 10 years, almost 9-10 years, did you, what did you feel? Did you feel like, you were going to get to it someday? Was it more of like, you just wanted to write it, and then sort of, the rest of your life took over and you forgot about it, and then it just came back? Or,
well, it was all of that,
yeah.
Life has its way of being life, and
Sure.
What I have to say to people is, and I think this is a really big deal, and I think people should take this to heart, is that your dream doesn't always have to be a dream. Your dream is actually some form of intuition or some form of inception. It may be a vision of what you're supposed to do. but you can't, that's the way it comes to you. It comes to you in something that you feel like doing, something that you want to do, or a dream,
Right.
so to speak. Not literally a dream. I mean, metaphorically speaking, people saying, oh man, I dream of doing this. And it's like, you have to want it. Like you have
Yeah.
to, it like you really have to want it. Like, so, my wife and I that year, she's a teacher, and she said, we sat down, we're like, we're going to do something for ourselves, because, you dedicate your life to your children or whatever. And that's everyone's excuse, like,
Of course.
according to statistics, it says 89% of the general population at one point in time said that they were going to write a book, and only 13% of them do. I think it's like 13 or 20% of them actually do it.
That's a great statistic. I love that.
Yeah, it's like everybody says, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And so I'm like, I've already done it. It's like, at this point, the biggest thing that was bothering me is the what if factor, right? So it's like, I'll never know if I'm going to fail. I'll never know if it sucked. I'll never know if I'm any good at this thing that I've always loved, unless I put it out there. And I have to be ready for somebody to step on my heart. I have to be ready for somebody to say, hey, this is shit. I have to be ready for somebody. But, within all that, I have to be ready for someone to love it. And, it's like, it was never about making money. It was always about to share your vision with someone. So let me give you the premise of Borrowed Time, right? And so, and I'll just go, I don't want to go too deep, because I don't want to spoil it. So I'll tell you, it's about a money guy. He's an accountant, and he lost his wife. And he lost his wife because he wasn't very good at being consistent and doing, keeping appointments, keeping schedules. He was terrible at those things, right? So it cost him. It cost him. I'm not going to tell you how or why it cost him, but it cost him. And so from then on, he had nothing. He spends 10 years at this amazing job doing the same thing. He's a number cruncher at this job. And the only thing that he has that means anything to him is a watch that has been in his family history for like a few generations, right? So it's a family heirloom given to him on his graduation day when he graduated, from college. He had been going to school forever. And the story begins where, he is on his way doing his normal routine. He does everything the exact same way. It's extremely mundane, right? Like, he even knows the habits of his next door neighbor, like what she does, like when she's going to make her coffee, when she's going to cook. Like, he is ridiculously like black and white,
Right. Process oriented for sure.
Definitely, right? And so today he is completely thrown off when the book starts, because something happens to the watch where it actually needs a restoration. And so the time is, and so it's funny because he has no other clocks in his house. And there's a reason for that. I'm not going to go into that, but he has no other timekeeping devices in his house, and he's afraid of a certain time in particular. So that's why that is. But make a long story short, he goes and he gets this device repaired from a referral from his boss. And so this creepy old antique watch keeper, he's a shopkeeper, and he's a keeper of small timepieces and devices. He does these beautiful restorations. And so he restores the device for Jacob. Jacob picks up the device. He tells him he can't put the device on because he needs to read the special instructions. So let's fast forward a bit, and the watch basically grants Jacob the gift of sight. Now, the gift of sight is the ability to see the life cycle of another living human being, not cats or dogs, but people. And that means there's a plethora of numbers over everyone's head. When he snaps this wristwatch on, he can see how much time you have until you are going to expire, until you are going to die. Now, the crazy part about it is, if he wears it traditionally on his left wrist, he can see the time of everyone around him. He learns later on that if he swaps it and he puts it on his right wrist, he can see how much time he has to live. He has left to live, and he's not too happy with those numbers. So that's the premise of Borrowed Time. So one of the things that upsets me the most is when you take too long to do something. Somebody is so close to what you're doing that they say that your inspiration came for that. So there was a film that came out in 2011 with Justin Timberlake. It was called In Time. Really good movie.
Yeah, love that movie. Saw it in the theaters a couple times.
fan of Justin Timberlake. So the concept of that film was that time was currency. And
Right.
so if you were rich, time was currency, and if you were rich, you were basically immortal. It was immortality. Now,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it has to do with time, but that is a completely different concept from my book. But not only that, Borrowed Time was completed in 2009, although it wasn't
Right.
published. In Time
Right.
was released in 2011, but for some reason, that's the go-to. That's everyone's go-to. Oh, that's like the Justin Timberlake movie. Kind of not. But what you have to understand is when you take forever to do something, everyone else is not doing the same thing, you know? So it's
Right.
like, if you have your dreams, you have your aspirations, you know, get that out there, you know, get it out there in some shape, form, or fashion, and, you know, do what you have
Yeah.
to do. So,
And there's
yeah,
definitely from an acting perspective, there's always like there's always this need or want to just have unique original stories, nonfiction or fiction, of like just telling stories, and some people prescribe to the idea of like, all stories, quote unquote, have been told and we're just retelling them with different archetypes and different methods. But, at the end of the day, there's still got to be someone putting the pen to paper, pressing the keys to make that arc. And I think that's something that's really important to do. And whether you're 5 years old or whether you're 85 years old, because I think that's like a part of creativity that people just never lose, no matter how old or young we are, and how much money we make, where we went to school, anything. Everybody has the ability to be creative.
yeah, and it's in different forms, and some people just repress it because they get consumed by the what is. For them, the 9 to 5 job, and that is a reality to them, and their dream is not a reality, and that is so false. That can be the furthest thing from the truth, and people don't understand it. It's like, oh, I have to give up those those dreams. Those are childish. I have to deal with what's real and what's in front of me. What's real is what you make real.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody that you see that does something, every author, every film director, every actor, every actress, at one point in time, they were trying to figure it out, and they decided to take their resources, no matter how small or no matter how great, and that's what they wanted to do, and that became their 9 to 5. And they love it, and that's what I'm gearing toward now. It's like I'm working on my second book now, which is entitled The Key. And it's actually about a kilogram of cocaine. So it's like
Love it. Love it.
It's crazy because it's completely like the opposition of Borrowed Time. It's a very urban-esque story.
Sure.
And it's about how 1 kilogram of cocaine, which is a brick, which is 36 ounces, rounded off, how many different lives it can affect. So I concentrate on 5 different stories. And within these 5 stories, this 1 kilogram of, this 1 kilo of cocaine affects the lives of these families in different ways. And, it's very tragic. It's crazy because you believe the good guy in the story, which is the cop, is a good guy. And he's totally in opposition of that. And you'll never be like, whoa, this is how this does it. He's supposed to be the good guy. And some of the people that you think would be the antagonists are actually the protagonists. But the crazy thing is, and the crazy thing is, it's like, because they're all connected within the book, they're all connected. So it's 5 different stories. It's not written in traditional chapters. It's written in actual stories. And you're going to actually see the characters in each other's story. So they actually touch one another, so to speak. They touch each other, within the stories. Not in an inappropriate way or anything like that. Yeah, but
sure,
within the stories. And that is supposed to be, if I'll sit my ass down and write like I'm supposed to, it's supposed to be released at the end of this year. I mean, give or take, it's like I'm still, we are about to hit the 1-year anniversary of Borrowed Time being released. That was May 26th of 2018. And so, we're a good, 5 days away from that now. So I'm really focusing on like anniversary promotions. And so if you guys want to tune in, I have my own, if you guys want to check out my website, it's sommeriobooks.com. I am going to be giving away free copies of my book in all 3 formats. That's in paperback, that's an audiobook through Audible, only the Audible version, which is kind of like an Amazon company, and with a coupon code for either a PDF version or an iBook version or a Kindle version. So I'm going to be giving away free copies to celebrate, that success and that and that great accomplishment. It's been a huge accomplishment for me, and it's like, not only that, I don't want to just sit on things. I've within the last year, I've donated several copies of my book to local libraries across the Chicagoland area. It's like, so basically they can check the book in, people can check the book out. So you might be able to head to your library and ask for the book by name, ask for the author, and be able to check the book out. I've been to a couple schools to talk about what we're talking about, pursuing your dreams, the importance of literature, the importance of seeing things through and trying to get away from that factor of when you're terrified of people, judging your work. There are so many of our youth out there that love poetry and they want to sing and they want to write, but they don't want to be ridiculed and they don't want to be judged. And to that fear, because if you have that fear, you are actually taken away from your possible fans, your possible audience that could be there for you. You're doing them an injustice or a disservice by not promoting your work and getting your work out there. And so, the last thing I did is I really tried to dip my hands in philanthropy just a bit. And I created a special edition of my book where I gave 100 proceeds of the of all royalties to donated it to a couple of schools around the Chicagoland area. So any copy of Borrowed Time that was from the what was called the donation edition, which was AD Sommerio Education, 100% proceeds. I didn't make any money off of those books. It went directly to different schools around the Chicagoland area. So it's like, it's like awesome, that's my way of just trying to give back. It's like, I'm not making money. No, I'm not rich, but I'm trying to get my story out there, and that's what I want to do. Is like, speaking of high school students, I had this weird premise. I was going to be in front of them. They were going to be yawning, they were going to be like, oh my God, this is going to be over with. They're on Snapchat and everything else the kids do, but they were completely engaged. And by the time I left those kids, I gave them free copies on the ebook version. They were just downloading it while I was talking to them. I'm like, wait, just listen.
They just wanted. They didn't care. They're like, I gotta read it now. and I thought that was amazing. I really did. It really made me feel good. That's something that I've always wanted to do. That I've always wanted to be that motivational speaker or that pushing force to say, just do this shit, man. Just Nike sign it shit, Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like when you start creating, it's like things pull you in like so many different paths so quickly, and you just make adjustments. Like I started stand-up comedy a year ago from acting, and now I've sort of enjoyed that shift of being in front of stage and getting to perform in front of people. Tank obviously invited me on the cast in 2019, and it's like, all these things happen, but I didn't really do anything different with my life. I just was like, oh yeah, I'll give this a shot, and I just saw everything through. So I definitely resonate with just putting yourself out there, put your work out there, put whatever you're trying to be out there, and then whatever you get back is sort of that's the crux. That's the important stuff from your family and friends, the people who support you, and you learn from it and you just keep going.
So I kind of wrote myself into a corner, and I completely changed the ending like a jerk because I thought it would be crafty to leave the ending like kind of open, to leave a sense of suspense there, because Borrowed Time was supposed to be a one deal, a one deal book, and that was it. Never meant to be a series. Well, it's not the way it's going to be now because it kind of screwed myself over. So the number one thing I'm hearing after someone has read that book is, I need the next one. When is the next one going to come out? And I'm like, holy crap, I've just done myself in.
Isn't that what you want? I mean, I don't want to put like thoughts in your head, but like as an artist, that's what you want to hear. You want to create like a culture and a brand, and like there's people out there that care about what you have to say, or at least like are involved in the story, and that to me is like, you know, all I need to keep going, or to do another show, or to write another joke, or whatever it may be. Because that's the good stuff, man. We got to hold on to that.
Oh yeah. Oh man.
I'm sorry, Tank man. I just took over your podcast.
Nah, dude, it's good. It's good. I like when we have
Well,
these conversations, these interviews and things, and let these, you know, let my guests speak their minds, speak what they're saying. You know, I wasn't expecting you to give out the premise for your next book, but okay, kind of excited.
oh well, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. You know what? As an author, and it's so crazy. I get to say author. You know, I spent a lot of time, and
Exactly.
people used to say, "Well, what are you?" And I say, "I'm a writer." You know, and it's crazy. It's like now I get to say as an author. It's like one day, you know, I had Googled myself, and all this random crap popped up. You know, and then you know after this whole thing, I put a lot of work, I put a lot of dedication, you know, into it. I put a lot of effort into it, and one day I was Googling myself to see if I could find my book, and actually a picture of me popped up and a profile on Google popped up and the title author was underneath it. And I just like was in tears. I'm like, this is all I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and then, you know, there's so much emotion involved there. It's like, I had one of my readers come back to me and said, I was in tears. And I think as a director, as a writer, as an author, as an actor, as anybody in the form, you know, that takes place in any of those form of arts, one of the most powerful things you can do is have the ability to change another human being's emotion. That is well, not a control, but that is a gift. If you are feeling a certain way, and I can write words that make you feel a whole completely different way, I have done my job. If I can
Yeah.
switch and change emotion, I have done my job. And people don't know how powerful words are. Words are the beginning and the end of everything. They're the beginning of love. They're the beginning of wars. You know, they end relationships. They end friendships. They make new ones. You know, everything is done with dialogue and with words, and people don't understand how powerful it is. You know, people say, well, music and this and that, but it's like, no, it's words. It is the number one most powerful form of anything on this planet. Like it can start a war and it can end a war. It's all
And
done.
Yep.
I'm sure your daughter is like your number one legacy, but I mean it's also our legacy to some extent. You know, as an author, you know, you have something that, you know, is very well, I mean, it will outlive you, and it, you know, it's something that could last beyond you, you know, and that's
It's
something that,
crazy that you say that. It's funny
you know
that
what I
you say
mean?
that. So I posted a post on my Facebook page, and I don't know if it was a quote, and I think I can. I don't have to look it up. I think I can remember my own damn quotes, but you know, it says, you know, the number one thing I want to get out of my craft in this world is the ability to leave a footprint. And it's no matter how big or small that footprint is, you know, is that I leave it. And I choose to leave that footprint as me being immortal through the art of storytelling. That is immortality.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like your words will live on. Prince music will live on. Michael Jackson's music will live on.
Exactly.
Tolkien's books live on. Lord of the Rings, you know, all of that stuff is going to live on. You know, God forbid when we lose, you know, Stephen King or when we lose James Patterson, his books and his literature and his legacy will live on. It will all live on, man.
Of
And I think
course.
that's amazing. That is amazing.
Yep. Definitely. Tank, you have a question? I feel like we've been leaving you out of this one.
Oh man, it's a lot. I don't know. It's a lot. I just love All I gotta say is, Mark, you've been knocking it out the park with the questions.
Well, we no, we do, Tony. We do genuinely love listening to both
Yeah,
Tank and I, just because this is what our podcast is about. This is who we want to be. This is
this is
definitely the
us.
culture we try to cultivate, like, for sure. And just, I mean, hearing people have the same dialogue over and over in different episodes, I think just even reinforces all of what we're saying, and uh, I think from what people take from you is that you shouldn't stop. Like, any excuse you have is just should go out the window, because you did it. You still got a job, you still got a family, you still got all the things that people say they can't be an author because they have all these things, but you did it. So I think you're an example for people, for sure.
And by all means, I'm totally still a work in progress. It's like
Exactly.
still
Yeah.
I'm still trying to carve out these small niches of time to write. I'm still Googling, like, my family is crazy. How can I write? And they exist. Like, and I'm speaking to other authors, and I'm shaking hands, and finding out small little techniques, and we're all in this together. And I think, like you said, you hit it right on the head. It's like, I'm a regular guy.
Yeah,
I'm a regular
Exactly.
guy. At one point, Beyonce was a regular gal. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And it's like,
Exactly.
all these people were people. We all came in the same way. We shot out of something, right? Well, we didn't shoot
Right.
out of something. That's terrible to sound. So you might have to edit that out. Oh my God, I don't know what this is rated. I love women, but we all came in. We all came on this earth the same way, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And it's like,
Right.
no one, well, the majority of us wasn't born with these particular talents. I was just literally today reading something about Peter Dinklage, right?
yeah,
Hmm.
And geez, this guy had a hard time. Like, if
Great
it's
story.
legit
Yeah.
what I was reading, he had a terrible time. And
Right.
and what I like about Peter Dinklage is that, at first he's like, you're not gonna make me play a dwarf, you're not gonna make me play an elf, you're not gonna make me play this, you're not gonna make me play that. But after a while, he was like, I'm gonna play whatever the hell I want to play, and I'm gonna be good at it. And he
Right.
is. And it's like, dude, just to hear his voice, you're excited.
oh yeah,
It's like, what did you guys do with freaking Destiny? And you got rid of Pete. No,
yeah.
Hmm.
just stop now. You got rid of Peter Dinklage. I'm not playing Destiny anymore. I don't give a fuck how great, whatever that gun was, the needle, well, whatever it was, the frozen one, whatever. It's goddamn rehash those guns. Whatever. But, it's like, I was floored by that. And it's like, now Game of Thrones is over with. And it's like, now I got to follow this guy,
Oh yeah.
because
Exactly.
it's like, I need more Dinklage. It's like, I need
Exactly.
Dinklage in my diet.
I need some Dinklage in your diet. Oh, that's a good
That's
one.
the name of the episode. That's the name of the episode right
Some
there.
Dinklage in your diet. Gotcha. Let me
Um,
mark that right now. Let me get a steak in
we
real
always
quick.
that's so funny. But yeah, it's definitely like creating a different culture. One question I thought of is, so you had the outline, I guess, in 2009 done. What were some of the, like, practical steps of, like, publishing, or like going through the publishing process, that you can share, like, when you decided to, like, pick it back up?
Okay. So for people out there who want to publish a book, you
Yeah,
have
exactly.
3 different ways to publish a book. You can self-publish all of your books, and that's going to cost your time, it's going to cost your money, and it's going to cost you to collaborate with a company that's going to do that. Amazon has its own company. Lulu Press is a publisher. BookBaby is a publisher that helps self-publishing. There's so many different companies out there, so you have to do your research. You have to see what fits your budget. You have to see what's going to fit your needs, and you're going to have to be okay with your work. There's nothing like spending 2, 3, 4, 5 years writing something and having it ready to go, and then have some company that you're supposed to partner with to self-publish throw out a big turd, and that's your baby. You don't want that to happen. So you definitely want to do your research. The other way is traditional publishing, and that's submitting your manuscript, submitting your synopsis, writing letters to the powers that be, and taking those slams, and tossing them back and say, I'm going to keep going, and taking more slams and say, I'm going to keep going. So I'm a huge fan. My wife bought me the master class, and I got James Patterson's master class. And one of the things he said he was, I think, denied anywhere between 25 and 30 times, and they told him that his work was crap. And it's so funny because one of the main books that he wanted to, to sell himself with, that he wanted to get published, they said it was terrible. And now it's been like one of the number one bestsellers, and it's like one of the books that he's really known for. I can't remember the title of the book, but it's funny because it was the complete opposite of what everybody was saying. So you kind of get this in your mind, like, is it their job to just deny you a gabillion times and you to just keep coming back? Some people can deal with that type of rejection. Other people cannot. So they may want to take the self-publishing route. Now,
it's interesting, like how many times, I would love to be, I'm sure all of us would love to be in that position of power, but like, how many times will you say no to somebody? And if they keep coming back at you, like with that persistence and with that perseverance, like eventually you're just going to be like, you know what? I got to read it. Like, I'm just going to read it and hate it. And either, hopefully you're not jaded. No, the person reading it isn't jaded, but I almost feel like that persistence is like almost like just a gate key of like, does this person want it enough? You know what I mean?
And I think it has to do with, you may not be knocking on the same door, right? But you best better believe me that everybody's connected, right? So you send your story to like 15 of these publishing houses in New York, and they all get rejected, right? Then you send it someplace else, and one of the guys at the other publish house ends up seeing your story on the desk of another guy. He's like, whoa, I remember that story. I tossed that in the trash. And then, after a while, he's like, no, I read that. This is decent. You probably missed an opportunity. Then who knows, I am a firm believer in chance encounters, like 100%. There is that one encounter that can change your life. Yeah, so now let's look at the third option here, because this is where I'm going. I'm going with the third option. Many people may think I went with the first, but there's something that is very popular that's called hybrid publishing. And what hybrid publishing is you self-publish your first maybe 3 books, right? You establish a name for yourself. You establish an audience for yourself. You kind of establish a brand. You take your sales numbers and you take all of your success, and then you toss that in the court of a traditional publisher, and you're more likely to get accepted because you've already established yourself versus them having to put money behind an unknown. So that is what's called hybrid publishing, and it is very popular now. So you'll see people self-publish their first 2 or 3 novels, and then next thing you know, they're with a traditional publishing house. So I really recommend that route because it allows you to get experience in the ins and outs. It allows you to spend some of your money. So when you're expecting people to put money behind you, you know what that means because you spent your money. So, you're a bit more, how should I say, understanding when they give you what they give you. You understand what I'm saying? Everything's a risk, You
got skin in the game.
Yeah, the number one thing that I can say is that do not worry about book sales. For anybody that's trying to publish, you're like, whoa, how am I going to get on the bestsellers list and how am I going to do this? It has nothing to do with book sales. It has something to do with book sales, but not much. Book reviews is what will make you or break you. You have to have book reviews, and that's what I'm working on now. So that means, I've had so many verbal compliments about my book. You know how hard it is to get people to write a review for your book. Oh my!
I know that, Tony. I'm trying to get freaking compliments on this podcast.
Man, they love your characters. They can reiterate some of the lines and tell you about it, but they will not write a damn review. So, one of the big thing is giving away the book for free, giving away promotional review copies. Find these groups on social media that are book review groups. There are people who just love to read and review books. And you find one of these groups and you're like, here's mine, do your worst. They might, so be careful. But, a review is a review, and that's what's going to boost you on Amazon. It's what's going to boost you out there is the reviews, because there are analytics to this. There's data to this, and when you
Right.
look at a book that's in a suspense thriller category, if your reviews, excuse me, are really really high, you end up in the people also bought this book or like this book
Right.
or what. The next thing you know, you see your book right there, and that's where you want to be. You want to be on those first 3 pages of, when people are looking for a book of a genre, you want your book to pop up, and you're only going to do that with reviews. So that's critical. Book reviews are huge.
Yep.
Sure. So it's sort of the idea of like building a brand behind yourself and investing that initial time, and then, partnering with a bigger name or a bigger company that can sort of take you to the next level.
Definitely, yeah. And so I have a website, and it's called SommeriaBooks.com. Of course, that's my last name. It's my surname. And people were like, well, why? Why would you have a website and then you have the title of your book? Because I don't only plan on writing one book, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, there may be other writers, because with the surname Sommerio, other members of the Sommerio family actually write. And if they publish, I am not the guy to hog the glory. Every Sommerio can have their book advertised on SommeriaBooks.com. So, it's really blossomed into something nice. People are used to seeing the Sommerio Books brand. And it's pretty awesome. People pay attention to it. People ask me for T-shirts. They're like, "Can I get a Sommerio Books T-shirt?"
Oh my God, look at that!
Wait.
So I dressed everybody at my book signing. So my wife had on a black Sommerio Books T-shirt, and all my kids had on white Sommerio Books T-shirts. And people were like, "We want a T-shirt." Like, well, I don't sell gear.
You should sell gear.
That was just for for my book signing, just to identify the people that were helping with the book signing. But people wanted T-shirts. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything now is like part of building that brand. I mean, talk about chance encounters. You never know who's going to buy your T-shirt, and then who's going to read it and be like, "Hey, why are you wearing a book T-shirt? Like, that's kind of weird." And then they can be the next publisher.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I've done some crazy stuff. I actually had a couple emails, because what I did is I made a QR code of my I just made a QR code of my website URL. I just start make them on little cards and leave them on public transportation. Like, human nature, it's ridiculous how curious humans are. So they don't know what it is. It can be something, the virus download, blow up your phone. They're going to chance it because they don't know what it is. And it's like, man, I found your website on this little card. It was a QR code. I scanned it, and you're an author. I think that's pretty cool what you did. And it's like, you never know who's going to look at that,
Hey, no bullshit, Tony. I've been thinking about the same thing, doing a QR code on cards for Incompetent Nerds, and literally doing the same thing, leaving them on the transit or leaving them in certain weird places, so people could just scan it and be like, "Oh, snap, is a podcast," and just start listening.
Yeah, people always need a podcast.
I swear, I've been thinking the same thing, and it's funny how you just said that.
People don't have a very high attention span, but they do have time on their hands. And it's so weird, because they have time on their hands, but they don't have a very high attention span. But they have time. Yeah. With a morning commute, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't speed the train up. You can't speed the
Hey, but Tony, would you say that time is borrowed?
Ooh, got him.
Then that's the second time I pulled that stunt on you, when like right after you published your book.
Now, you say that, and that brings up the final thing that I kind of want to talk about is every book has a theme or a moral, right?
Yeah.
And so, the moral of borrowed time is about balance, and what I mean about that balance is people have a habit today to look the other way. People stop helping people that they believe aren't appreciative of their services or of their just of their energy. You share your energy, you try to help someone, you go out of your way to help someone, and you don't feel that feel like
reciprocated it, right?
Be reciprocated, right? It's not going to come back or whatever. But in my opinion, karma is huge, and there will and always will be a balance, and it may not come from that individual, you know. But there is an overseer, there is karma, there is a universe, and there must be a balance. So if that is who you are, and you're this hero, you're this hidden hero, you're this person that walks the lady across the street, you're this person that stops and helps this kid that's crying and that's lost, you're this person that will help your sister, do a term paper, at the last minute, or you'll help a family member move even though you're tired as shit, or you'll help a complete stranger, find their way or something. You continue to be that person. That gratification may not be instant, and that return may not come from the individual that you help, but don't let that make you callous, because there will always be a balance, and your good deeds and your goodwill, it will be returned to you. And if we all thought that same way, just think about how today is and how we are in society. If everyone did their part and everyone felt that way, how much better of a place, we would be in. And that's what Borrowed Time is about. There's a lot of sacrifice that Jacob makes in that book. And every time he makes those sacrifices, he hurts himself until he believes it's over for him, but he does it anyway. Should go read it. Everybody should go read it. Everybody should read it. I mean,
I love the subtle plugs of like, you're tying in your philosophy, but then you're like, yeah, so go read Borrowed Time.
It's got to be in there somewhere, right? Go buy the book or wait for the book to be free. Hey, shit, I'm not against that. Yeah. Because like I said, it's not about me making money. It's about me sharing my vision. That was my baby, man. It still is. It's like, I can go back and I can read portions of Borrowed Time and I'll be like, oh my God, he did that. And then I think about it like, idiot, you wrote it. Like, like these characters, like, they take a life of their own. One of the crazy things, I don't know if I can say this. I don't want to get you guys sued. Game of Thrones season 8, but season 8 of Game of Thrones, one of the things about, at the end of each episode, you get a chance to hear commentary from both of the writers and the directors, right?
Yep.
And one of the things that gave me goosebumps is one of the writers said, and following this character and watching them do what they do, and watching her as she did this and watching her as she did that. And he spoke about that character as if he didn't write those things about that character, and if that character had its own life of its own. And I'm like, that is a writer. That is what a writer is. When you allow your characters to take life for themselves, you are there. You don't become, you become their instrument. So what you become is a witness. What you become is a journalist. And who the heck is that? My door. That's my doorbell, podcast people listening. That is my doorbell.
Somebody's pizza.
And that's probably my kid. And I only asked for like maybe an hour where I wasn't interrupted. But when you have a family is family.
I don't know if you guys been hearing. I've been muting my damn mic half the time.
We are incompetent. We definitely. This is a guerrilla podcast. We understand that things happen and things come up. So if you gotta go do what you gotta do, Tank and I will make lovely small talk until you return.
Yeah, but no, it's fine. But yeah, okay. You become a vessel.
Right.
You sit in a chair like when I'm writing, sometimes I completely leave where I am. I can't see my laptop anymore. I can't see my desk. I'm literally with my characters and I'm watching them do what they do. And sometimes what they do is scary as shit. And I'm like, please don't let that happen.
Yeah.
And I'm writing all of this, but I'm like, please don't do that. Or please, you shouldn't do that. So weird because you kind of don't know who's in control anymore. So now everyone's going to think I'm a lunatic, but I think people who write probably know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
I agree.
Everything's about a process, right? Everybody has their own process and systems in place. It's all about how you get a right system. I like to do a lot of my joke writing in the cemetery, only because it's quiet and no one's going to bother you. So
You're not going to get
I
much
can definitely.
ridicule there either if your joke isn't where they
Exactly.
want it to be.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like if someone does bother you, that's already a joke in itself.
Pretty much. Especially when you start talking,
Yeah, you gotta,
especially when you say it out loud to hear yourself, and nobody laughs. That's when you're just like, man, it's a tough crowd out here. You get that one laugh, and that's when you're like, I need to go.
Exactly.
Oh man, crap.
Well,
No, yeah.
any Tony, this has been very enlightening. I've loved every minute of having you on. I guess if I had to ask you a last question or a final question, aside from your philosophy or, the book and everything you got going on, what do you want people to take away from their lives, or what they see you do, and what do you want them to get out of it, or what you can apply it to your daughter or your life, any person you want, but what do you want to people to take away?
you know, to believe in themselves. And what I mean by this is that a long time ago, my wife wanted to go to the Steve Harvey show. She was like, "Yeah, I got free tickets. Let's go to the Steve Harvey show." I'm like, "I've never done a talk show. Let's go." And Steve Harvey, he makes all these jokes or whatever. Some people think he's a jerk. Some people love him. But at the end of the show, Steve Harvey has this very long, heartfelt conversation that is totally not on camera. He's totally not getting paid for, but he talks about where he came from, what he did. And one of the things he said, because he may be religious, I'm not going to get into religion here. I'm just going to quote what he
Sure.
said. He said, when God gives you a vision, it is your vision. And it is up to you to make that vision come into reality. Other people are not going to understand the possibility of that vision because it's not their vision. Meaning you're going to get naysayers. Nah, you're not going to be able to do that. Nah, you probably shouldn't waste your time doing that. Nah, that's too hard to get into. Nah, there's too many people doing the same thing. They can't understand your vision because that inception didn't happen from him to them. It happened for you. So
Right.
you concentrate and focus on your vision. People always want to ask whoever their God is for something. They're like, give me a hint, give me a hint. And when the acorns are falling on their head like they're fucking Chicken Little, they overlook it. They look past it, and it's like you're getting these subtle hints. You're poked and prodded. It keeps coming back up. And if you have a dream and it keeps coming up, that's a fire. And yeah, it may go to a smolder at one point. It may go to like small little, just just like little embers or whatever. But if it ever sparks back up and it turns into a flame again, it's something you need to nurture and you need to fuel, because that is what you're supposed to be doing.
Sure.
If you are getting these awesome jobs and you're making X amount of money and you're still unhappy, and whenever you do whatever your dream was, even if it's a side hobby and you're happy, that's what the hell you're supposed to be doing. Find a way to take that energy from your 9 to 5 and turn it into your dream and make your dream a damn reality. Don't you dare not do that. You are doing a disservice for yourself, and you are doing a disservice for the people you would entertain, the people who would hear you, the people you would motivate, the people you would inspire. You are doing them a disservice. And don't do that.
Love it. I love it.
Well, I feel a little bit yeah. I think I'm gonna quit my job and just do podcasting from 9 to 5.
I've never said that. Sometimes you need the 9 to 5 to fund.
You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Tony told you to quit your jobs and continue with your career.
My house isn't that big. It's not that big.
Let me not do that.
I can't have
somebody's
you
gonna
guys
sue
selling
us
my
and
books
you.
on the corner like
Let me take all that back before somebody sue us and you for that. But no, Tony, I totally agree, and it did impact me. Like, don't waste all your energy on on a job that just like gives you fucking pain and annoyance and all this other stuff. And whatever your dream is, and whatever, if you're good at it, whatever you're great at and it brings you happiness and joy, put that energy into that. And I feel that way with with the Comics and Nerds. After starting it, I just thought this was going to be a small thing. Didn't think it was going to last this long, to tell you the truth. And especially when Jay left the cast, and that kind of bummed me out, and I was actually done, but I still pushed forward. And then when me and Mark started chatting, all of a sudden, it was like from a decent like hiatus. We haven't chatted in a while, and he was telling me like, yeah, dude, he was talking about the acting and comedy and how a lot of comics starting podcasts, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, you know what? But I'm like, you know what? Why don't you just join the Comics and Nerds? Join me with the Comics and Nerds. I need a co-host. And he goes, I was just going to tell you that. So I was leading into that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Sounds good to me. Let's do this. And I got to give, Mark, a lot of props, because after like redoing everything, the logo, the website, getting into it, he put 110%. And because of his motivation of joining the podcast, it like reignited my flame to get this podcast back up and going. And I see where you're coming from, and I know it's gonna take time, and I'm hoping by the end of summer I can at least get at least 100 subscribers. I mean, at the end of summer, at the end of the year, just at least get 100 subscribers, and then after that, next year get 1,000, and keep climbing up the ladder. And I'm not asking for 1 million subscribers at the end of the year. Sometimes the impossible can be achieved, but
yeah, I gotta have the big vision so we can get there, because Tank needs his Ferrari.
First of all, if I hate driving, and second, I won't be getting a Ferrari.
Yeah, there's crazy power in words and the ability to will things in existence, and people don't know. Again, that's me speaking about how powerful words are, and when you speak things into existence, it's crazy at how things can happen. Like, it takes that one chance encounter. It's like you never know. I look at things. I used to read Electronic Gaming Monthly years ago, right? That was the days of
EGM. I loved EGM.
Yeah, EGM. Nintendo Power and stuff like that. And there were a couple guys put together something called IGN. And it was like it was just a few people. I never knew what IGN stood for. Back in the day, and now years and years later, IGN's everywhere. But that didn't. It was small. It was like it had a small little core little audience or whatever. And as the industry grew, and they grew, and now it's like, where can you go and not know what IGN is? It's like it is what it is. And it's like that's you. It doesn't matter. Everything is going to start off in its infancy stages. There are going to be setbacks, right?
Of course.
A lot of companies. Who knows? Some of these companies are starting out of their garage. You don't know that. You're as big as you make yourself. You're as big as you make your name. So I'm not saying fake it until you make it, but if you enjoy what you're doing, and now you're starting to get fans for it, you enjoy what you're doing. Yeah. It's just that simple. It's like when you have a job, you are literally what a 9-to-5 job is you are trading your time for money. So you might as well be utilizing that time doing something you love.
Exactly.
It's just that simple.
No, exactly. All right. I feel like this is a good segment to close. Before we close out, Tony, any last words you would like to say? Anything closing you would like to say towards,
Sound like I'm about to be executed.
I know, that's why I had to rephrase it. Any not last words, but more like any closing statements.
There you go. Come to the Nerds podcast where you be executed right at the end of the show.
Goodbye, Tony. Chop
subscribers pretty quickly.
Yeah. I just want to thank both of you guys for having me on to give me that voice, to allow me to speak. Every avenue is another avenue to be heard, and you guys are actually, your voice. You're that amplifier. You're allowing me to have that voice and talk to more and more people, and I really appreciate that. I really appreciate your time and the hospitality and Tank, I appreciate our friendship, bro. It's like, watching you grow and watch you do, that's motivation for me, and I hope what I do, people have to share energy, and that's huge. You want to be around people with the same energy because we all have the ability to motivate one another. Yeah. And And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's part of being part of, I guess the human race. Period. Is
Yeah.
that energy, be able to share that aura.
No.
Yeah. So that's
And I just want to piggyback with that with us working with each other for the 3 years and everything, and how I want to say we influenced each other a lot, and not just in terms of work, but also in terms of our crafts and what we love, and even at work, and how we worked very well. Like I would say, compared to before Jay left the company, you and me were pretty fucking spot on with every project, everything they gave us,
oh yeah, we were solid.
and we were a solid team. But you know,
Still are solid team, guys.
we still a solid team.
Not
We still
dead.
stay connected. We still game. We still talk crap. He sends me stupid pictures, and I send him stupid pictures. What you call it? Well, memes. And of course, oh, Tony's Facebook is hilarious.
Oh, you think so?
Oh, it's hilarious. It's all of his daily drama with his friends and family, and especially the ones between him and his daughters are hilarious. Every time he posts something, a conversation between him and his daughters, I'm thinking like, this is a meme. Like, this is not like, wow, Tony, you are just surrounded by funny.
I couldn't make that stuff up. Yeah, someone was like, "Dude, You guys need your own reality TV show." And I'm like, I don't
Tune
know.
in. Tune in to in June, Tony. We're gonna talk about comedy, or July. Sorry, like July is gonna be our comedy month, and
Oh
I'm gonna
yeah.
go through how to write an actual joke, like from start to finish, that you can tell people. So give us a listen then.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'll try to get some funny people on the podcast. I know a few funny people that I think that will enjoy to be on here.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, thank you so much, Tony, for coming on. Tank. This was I loved the plethora of guests that we're able
Bring on
to
to the
have
show.
each and every week. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Bef-
this has been you have anything else?
yeah. Before we close out, Tony, where can they find you in social media?
Oh yes.
Uh, okay.
Links.
So I have an authors page on Facebook, and it's Sommerio Books One. That's my authors page, and then I mean, you can probably find my personal page from there. I kind of like try to keep them separate, but that doesn't happen. So feel free to friend me on either one of the pages. I had to have one to have the other. I'm also working on, my YouTube. You can basically go to SommeriaBooks.com and find everything. My links to the book on Amazon, the links to the book on iTunes are all on SommeriaBooks.com. So that's SOMMERIO books.com, just SommeriaBooks.com. Yeah, I just upgraded my website so it has a SSL. It's secure. You could totally be secured on my website. You're protected. You won't get pregnant by being on my website. All right.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for those who are a little bit too lazy, I will add the links below of all of his social media accounts. And of course, you can find our social media accounts listed below in the description as well. And with that said, Mark, would you like to close out?
Yes, thank you guys so much for having us. Thank you, Incompetent Nerds listeners. Hope to hear from you guys again soon. Catch us back next week. And shout out to Tony. Go read or listen to Borrowed Time anywhere you can. And take care, guys. Peace.
Peace.